You are at the Almighty Church of Rock with a band called the FEEDERZ from Ever Feel Like Killing Your Boss. That song is called Stay Free. A romantic little ballad, if I ever heard one.
Romantic little title.
Right? Frank Discussion from the FEEDERZ is on hold right now. We'll get to him in about 20 seconds. The Magpies, before that, from Missoula, Montana, with Next Three Exits. They'll be at Johnny B's in Medford on Saturday. Blue Cheer, before that. Man, I love Blue Cheer. But right now, let's go ahead and get to our Easter special. That's right. He's our Easter egg special. It is Frank Discussion. Hello, Frank Discussion. Are you there, my friend?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay.
How many...
Yeah, I was just out back plucking a goat,
What's that?
I was just out back plucking a goat.
That's nice. How do you pluck a goat?
Well, they got a lot of hairs. It takes some time.
Interesting. I never knew you were a goat plucker.
Yeah.
Never mind. That'll lead to an F word. So how many radio interviews do you actually do, Frank?
Actually, not a lot for some reason.
Huh.
Yeah.
I first heard your famous song, we'll call it Jesus, on the Alternative Tentacles album, and I think it was around 1980. Let Them Eat Jelly Beans was the album, I believe. And what a great song, man.
Well, thank you.
It's just a beautiful...
I hope the Christians all liked it.
Well, why do you think I have you on here for the Easter show? I think ahead, man.
All right, yeah.
A lot of people were really excited that you were going to be on the show tonight, so I normally don't write questions for an interview, but I wrote down a few things just because I wanted to make sure. It's pretty interesting to note that Kurt Cobain was a pretty big fan of the FEEDERZ, from what I hear.
Yeah, some people have mentioned that before. I didn't know him. And no, I wasn't the one who took a shotgun to him either. So.
Darn it, that was my second question, man. Courtney Love's been talking, man. No. It's El Duce and Frank Discussion in the same sentence.
Hey, that's probably a first.
Yeah, right? So, didn't your new album came out yesterday, right? Or your EP?
Yeah, well, it's an EP. Yeah, it just came out yesterday for, don't bother to... with their taxes day. So after all, the president doesn't. So yeah,
that's awesome. Are you guys doing many shows these days?
Well, actually, we haven't been. We haven't been together. We just got together to do this EP, and then we're going to be doing the rest of an album this summer. And I presume we'll be playing a bit after that to support it. But yeah.
Well, if you guys,
we haven't been playing yet. We just, we hadn't played together for years and years when we did this.
Yeah, I saw the photos, and I got kind of excited. I'm like, wow, the FEEDERZ are going to have a new record. That's great.
Yeah, it actually pulled together amazingly well and fast. It was almost as if we hadn't been apart all this time.
What is the name of the record for people that don't know anything about the new record? What can you tell us some stuff about it, or?
Okay, yeah, it's what would Hitler do? And it says WWHD, like the bracelet, people would have it. What would Jesus do? And we presume that Trump has one saying it. What would Hitler do? At least it would appear so from most of his actions.
Right. Yeah, I like the album, the EP cover art with the picture of Trump on there, and that says, "What would Hitler do?" Yeah.
And then on the back is kind of the solution to the problem.
That's funny. What the song titles?
The song titles are two of my favorite subjects. A couple of the fine arts, sabotage and stealing.
Sabotage and stealing. Such great art forms.
Yeah. As I said, they're the fine arts, the real fine arts.
Where did you guys record this record at?
We recorded it in Phoenix. And boy, it was such a whirlwind thing. I forget the name of the studio. The engineer was just outstanding on it. I had never worked with an engineer that was had it that down before. So yeah.
So you're pretty happy with the sound?
Yeah. I always you have the engineer do it. How they would do it if it was theirs and work from there. But usually there's a bit to go from there. And this time it was only a couple of things, and it was like, yeah, it was done. As a matter of fact, it was a little scary because like, okay, what am I missing here?
Do you actually enjoy touring or recording, that kind of thing? It's great. I mean, of course, there's a lot of frustrations and everything to go with it. Especially when touring, you're dealing with it. Sometimes the club owners can be really weird. And, they can be earwigs and yeah, right.
But,
my co-host Sister Tracy is here, and I think she has a question for you.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering. Music has changed a lot. I mean, with the internet now, it's not like it used to be where, you can get your stuff out on the internet to millions of people, basically, in a matter of just, a month or so, you can get thousands and thousands of hits on a song. And I just kind of wondered how you felt about that. Like, things, I don't really think things are as organic as they used to be. I hate to use that word, as they used to be, but with the internet and everything, do you kind of find that there's not that kind of closeness anymore with, I guess with putting your music out there like it was in the 80s? And, how do you kind of feel about the internet and the way it's taken over as far as you can be a success overnight on the internet?
Well, like many things when commercialized, there's a lot of garbage involved. The idea that it's always a mixed bag. The idea that you can reach a lot of people and bypass a lot of things, that's the good side. The bad side, is all the stuff with the record companies and everything. They can, they're trying to take over the net. That's kind of the sick side of it.
Oh yeah, they can't stand the fact that they're not getting their dollar. They always whine. Every year they make more money, and every year they whine that that hey, they could be making more money if people didn't download. That's funny because years ago we started putting on all of our stuff on the website for people to download at will. It's just to say our way of, I guess, saluting the RCIAA.
Nice.
Yeah, there's so much to wade through now. It's like, you just going on, like, say, YouTube and just trying to find something. There's just so much out there, you know what I mean, that you can't even really, it's overwhelming, I think, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about information. You can get, so much of it that it becomes meaningless. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, but on the other hand, with the internet is, a prime area for one of the fine arts, actually one I just mentioned, sabotage. You can do it on a grand basis, using the internet where you wouldn't have been able to have that kind of effect before.
Right.
Well, you were also, I've been reading that you're into these, like the study of resistance and
anesthesiology.
Yeah, say that again.
Anesthesiology.
Yeah, what is anesthesiology?
Well, essentially, it's the study of resistance. The idea of what has worked, the different tactics that have been used, what works, what doesn't work. Tried to look at all the aspects. But one of the things that where we were starting from was a lot of the the Native Americans and their resistance. And, it was kind of interesting that the groups that had a hierarchic society and, had firm leaders and everything, had a tendency to be able to be completely usurped. Like the Spanish would come in and say, well, I'm, now your new overlords, and everything will go on as the same. And, so it made the societies brittle, and they just collapsed and were taken over. But on the other hand, when you had societies that were more communal, they didn't have a specific leader to go after. And there was no structure where they could just come in at the top, take over the top place, and rule. And so they had a much tougher time with that. And then you had some of the actual fighting tactics of groups like the OMA, commonly called the Yaqui, and the Inde, the Apache, and stuff like that. Like, for instance, Apache was about 150 people, including women and children, kept a 12,000-man army, U.S. Army, going for years without being captured or taken out.
Yeah, and just speaking, I mean, just of the idea and the topic of resistance. We're living in crazy times, man. With the whole, Dakota Access Pipeline, and out here in Oregon, we have our own pipeline that we're kind of trying to fight out here, the LNG pipeline. It just seems like they're making it more and more difficult for people to voice their opinion or to be heard. It's becoming tougher every day in America to exercise your right to free speech and your right to, to be heard. It's really scary times.
Well, yeah, actually, I think they pretty much, put the last nail in the coffin when they had the Supreme Court said in the court case, I think it was called Citizens United, said that money was free speech. And I think that pretty much said it all, all that needed to be said.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if you got enough money, like the mafia always says, if you have enough money, if you have money and friends, you can laugh at the law.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, before we kind of already knew what was happening, but now they're just kind of out in the open about it. It's like they've come out from behind the curtain and just taken the seat. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, yeah, and that's that's the thing. At this point, it's it's made it obvious. The whole situation is corrupt, and it's not going to be okay. And it's not like, if you vote, the other people will be, a little less of, monsters than the other people,
Right.
And that's about all they can offer. But the whole thing is, the earwigs they put in office at this point, that just tore apart the last shred of credibility this country had.
Yeah.
Amen, man.
So at this point. At this point, it's like, it's either we take things into our own hands, or just accept anything.
Right.
No matter how screwed up it is.
Yeah, it's getting that. It's that way.
And now, that's it really is one or the other. There's no working within the system, or you end up with three choices. One, just giving up and accepting whatever they toss at you, and just get used to being on your knees, and where you're your only choices are spit or swallow, and or else the second choice is to walk around in a turtle suit and chant a lot, and that hasn't worked for the last 60 years, so there's not a likelihood of it working now, especially with you see that the especially the people in power, just laugh at it, and then the third option, of course, is insurrection, and actually people just once again taking things into our own hands.
Yeah,
that's right, man.
It's going to take people people getting together, and gosh, I mean, I think the whole dividing the people has worked out pretty well for them though so far.
Yeah.
You're listening to Frank Discussion Interview on the Church of Rock. If you've just tuned in, it's KSKQ Radio, 89.5 FM, Ashland, Oregon, 94.1 FM, Medford, Oregon. We are talking to Frank Discussion from the FEEDERZ. We don't have a lot of time, Frank, but I got a couple things I would like to ask you about.
Okay.
The first show, I'm not sure if this is fact or fiction, but the first show, supposedly, that you ever did with the FEEDERZ, you caused a pretty big panic by firing blanks from an AR-15 rifle into the audience.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
So that really happened.
What was interesting is that a lot of the people tried backing up. They didn't hit the ground; they backed up. They just, somehow they would run bullets.
Not very effective.
And we had planned it all out. So Clear Bob had run off the stage and hit the lights. So there was no lights, so all you could see was the muzzle flash of the gun.
Oh my God!
And then actually, just in case any cops were there, I had a clip full of live ammo because if I was going to go down, I'd at least make it interesting.
Wow.
And then Clear Bob got into the car and drove out back, and they had the door open, and I just, when I was through, I just ran out the back door, jumped in the car, and we took off.
Wow, interesting. Also, I wanted to ask you about the time in Arizona that you wrote Bored with School, and posing as an announcement from the Arizona Department of Education, you distributed, I guess, 5,000 copies of these things to local high schools, and you had to leave to go to San Francisco to avoid arrest for the incident?
Well, yeah, because I happened to mention a number of things that apparently they had not gotten around to informing their students about. And on top of it, I said, they put in a fake thing saying, well, to, ensure your loyalty and to, we are offering a prize of $50 to anyone who writes an essay on why I like being a student, and the best student based on these essays would get an additional $300. And the 5,000 copies of it, a bunch of high school kids walked around from class to class and handed them to the teachers. The teachers read them and thought they were real and handed them out to the classes.
Wow.
That's awesome.
But what made it even better is when they reported on the news, one of the stations actually showed the entire text during the news.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Thing on it. And yeah, that was great. That was something I would never have expected.
You can't buy that kind of publicity.
Sabotage. Sabotage at its best. One more question for you, Frank. I'd like to have you back on again someday, but I don't know if this is true or not, but I guess supposedly back in the early 80s perhaps, 83, 84, when the Dead Kennedys were on tour, supposedly you, quote unquote, bled Jello Biafra's meager bank account and ran off with his wife. What's the deal with that?
Well, actually, I had nothing to do. I don't know how I would have ever accessed a bank account, so that is just blatant.
So we got 2 out of 3.
So what about the wife?
Well, there was okay. There's the situation was that things were not going great with them already, and there was a number of circumstances leading into it, and for the reason of other people's privacy and everything, I won't go into them.
Okay.
But the situation where there was something that happened, but it didn't run away with his life.
Right.
Okay.
Things
And
weren't
the
great to
bank account
begin
thing
with.
was just completely bizarre. I know there were stories going around that that gone through his bank account and bought massive amounts of cocaine or something, and it's like, okay, I don't even do cocaine, so.
Don't you love hearing
Yeah,
stories
how
about
enjoy
yourself
it.
that you never even had the pleasure or actually of doing?
Yeah, well, that's not the first story. The last time that's happened.
Right.
So,
I hate to bring up.
a lot of the story is just BS. But I'm not going to, and it's but part of it did happen, and so it's.
And that's history.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. It's a lot of fun talking to you. I've been a fan since like 1980, man. And you're one of the punk rock / whatever crazy rock bands that I've always had this secret love for. So to have you on the show on Easter is particularly heartwarming for me.
Thank you. And remember, blue lives don't matter.
Blue lives
don't matter.
Cops. Ladies and gentlemen, frank discussion. Woo! Hey, man, would you come back on the show sometime again?
Certainly.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Frank. We're gonna play a song from one of your old records, but the next time we have you on, we're gonna play stuff from the new EP. This is a song called "Terrorist." And thanks again, Frank. I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Well, thank you.
All right. Take care. We hope to see you soon.
Thanks,
Okay,
Frank.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.